Hello and welcome or welcome back for another Knit Your Aesthetic video. This week we are covering the Aprés Ski or ski bunny, snow bunny aesthetic. So let's get into it. Okay, and hello. So if you've been here before, you're probably very familiar with this format at this point, but if you haven't been, welcome. I'm doing a knitting pattern roundup of patterns that help you achieve a certain aesthetic. So this week I'm covering the Après Ski, Snow Bunny, Skier Girl, Skier Guy aesthetic of, looking like you just got off the slopes and you're having a warm beverage or a cocktail in a ski lodge. So let's get into it. This is a fun one for me because I grew up skiing and it brings back a lot of fun memories. I think I grew up in a much less aesthetic version of skiing with the culture in Colorado where I live is much less formal and much less fashionable, I think, than the typical après ski look you see that I think is more popular maybe in Europe, especially Scandinavia, and more popular maybe in the east coast of the US. In Colorado, our culture is very just whatever is comfortable, wearing your Patagonia, just wearing a big coat, big helmet, ignoring what you look like outside of that. But it's still nostalgic to me to be looking at all of these ski looks. So I'm excited to talk about it. So before we get into the patterns, a little overview of this aesthetic. So it's obviously inspired by going skiing and what you wear, not really on the mountain because like while you're skiing, because you're wearing a big coat, you're wearing athletic wear for that. And so it's more after you're done skiing, you've had a hard day or you're getting up to the slopes and what clothing you're wearing for that. So there are some elements that you can wear actually on the slopes as far as hats and gloves and a sweater underneath, but a lot of this is more to do with like after in the lodge and stuff like that. So it's a lot of big, oversized, very graphic sweaters. And so I'm wearing my most graphic sweater, which is just stripes. I'm very clearly not a very graphics person in my clothing, but a lot of like big color work motifs on sweaters, a lot of circular yokes too, a lot of oversized turtleneck looks, a lot of headbands, to keep both sweat off of your face and your ears warm when you're putting on your helmet. Lots of gloves, lots of things to keep your legs warm, so some leg warmers, and yeah, just things to stay warm but also still look fashionable. I am mostly talking about women's clothing here just because I am a woman and this is how I dress and am inspired to dress, but I'm featuring some men's clothing as well. But there's a lot of more form-fitting stuff too. So you'll see the oversized, but there's often a lot of also tighter elements. So I've seen a lot of coats that have belts to kind of cinch in your waist while still staying warm. A lot of moon boots too. This is an aesthetic that loves a moon boot, which obviously you cannot knit a moon boot, but you can get more of that oversized shoe look or oversized like bottom of your leg look with leg warmers and things like that in knitting. So yeah, lots of just trying to stay warm from the elements, but still, not just be a puffball because I in the winter definitely just dress as a puffball. And so this is a not puffball winter aesthetic. So let's just get into it now. All right, so I have 4 different categories of items that you can use to get this aesthetic, and we're gonna go through them. So this first category of the Après Ski aesthetic is a oversized graphic colorwork sweater. And so I've got 3 patterns to talk about here. And so this first one is the Lumi sweater by Sari Nordlund. This is a super popular pattern and rightfully so. I think it's beautiful. It's a nice color work, circular yoke, and then pretty simple on the bottom, except there's still a nice color work detail on the sleeves. And yeah, I like that it's more graphic. Like a lot of the designs are bigger than what you see on some other color work yokes, and a lot of the time the color work yoke kind of radiates out versus this one is distinct chunks, which I think plays well for this après ski aesthetic. And yeah, it's just a nice sweater. It is a worsted weight sweater and goes between a finished bust circumference of 31 inches and 60 3 inches, which includes the intended ease of 2 to 3 inches. So that means it goes between a 28-inch and a 60-inch bust circumference. And yeah, it's a beautiful sweater that I think would look really nice styled with the other elements of an après ski outfit. The next pattern we'll talk about in colorwork sweaters is pretty similar, but this is the Super Celine by Anne Wenzel, and it is a Aran weight sweater. It has 5 sizes between, oh my gosh, it only tells me in centimeters, which is not my preferred, but between 112 and 148 centimeters, and is just a super chunky, oversized turtleneck with these long sleeves. I love the long kind of barrel sleeves where they don't decrease at all, and a really nice, very graphic, very large colorwork motif. So this one's another beautiful one to style with maybe a pair of leggings and your moon boots, throw over your coat, and add like a fun hat, and you're set. And the final colorwork sweater we'll talk about is the Stitches sweater by Veronica Lindberg. I especially like this one because I saw a lot of, when I was looking in this aesthetic, saw a lot of sweaters that had words on them. And so this one says Stitches. I think that you could very easily modify this chart to say different words if you want, which could be fun. I don't know what you'd want to put, but you could put something else or leave it as Stitches because that's fun too. But I think that this one is the most closely aligned with these graphic ski sweaters that I've seen, and it's a beautiful sweater. The words are really fun. It's, again, the rest of the motifs are really larger and pretty graphic. And yeah, the words are great. This fit, I think, is also really nice for this aesthetic with a crew neck and then sleeves that kind of balloon in. It's very lovely. And this sweater is a worsted weight. It is intended to have 0 to 4 inches of positive ease and goes between a 29.5 and a 69-inch bust. So pretty great there. All right. Man, I'm moving quickly today. I don't know why. I guess maybe I've had a lot of caffeine. But moving to this next category of patterns is leg warmers and mittens. So, when you're out in the elements for a long time and you're doing athletic work, like you're skiing, you're building up a lot of heat. And so you want to wear pretty thin layers with, a pair of leggings instead of big pants or things like that. But then it's nice once you're sitting down to be able to cozy up with a pair of mittens, a pair of leg warmers to keep your calves warm. Or, while you're skiing, you need to be able to use your hands. You can't have them in your pockets. So you want a pair of mittens because it's also cold. And so this next set of patterns is very practical for that. But also I think the ones I've chosen help you get that après ski look. So first pattern here are the Heidi leg warmers. These are by Irene Lynn. And this is a free pattern actually, which is always nice. And they're just a really nice cabled pair of leg warmers. I like that they have the slit in the back because I think that really helps you to position them nicely where they go over the top of your foot as well. So I actually might make these for a gift soon. They're an Aran weight and have one size, pretty friendly for yarn too, between 270 and 300 meters. And yeah, they're just a nice pattern that would look nice over a pair of snow boots or, over a pair of leggings, like whatever you're wearing up in the mountains would look lovely, or like a pair of Ugg boots after you're done skiing, or just in your day-to-day life if you want this aesthetic. I think a pair of like Ugg boots or the shorter Ugg platforms or whatever with this would look lovely, or like Bonsa, whatever kind of boots you wear, these would look nice over them. The next pattern is another pair of leg warmers, and it's another free pattern as well. These are the Wilkinson leg warmers. This is a pattern by Wool and the Gang, and it's designed for bulky weight yarn, and it's just a simple rib stitch. They actually have 4 sizes, which is really nice. And again, pretty yarn friendly because it's just a tube to go on your legs, so it doesn't require that much yarn. And it's nice to have free patterns for leg warmers because they are like a tube that goes on your legs. I think that it's pretty simple to figure out how to design one yourself as well if you wanted to, but here's a couple free options because it feels silly to pay for a pattern for a tube. And yeah, these are really nice. I think that, you know, the photos style it very clearly in this ballerina core with a pair of ballet flats, but again, would look really nice with a pair of boots or whatever you're wearing in the snow and a pair of leggings and your big coat. So there we go. The next pattern we'll talk about here is a pair of mittens. So these are these Speedy Selbu mittens by Skandir Knits, and I think I found this inspiration image of this girl wearing mittens and skiing, and these mittens look almost identical. Like it might be this pattern that she used. But this is just a really nice pattern. They're the very traditional, I think it's Norwegian mitten patterns where they're very pointed at the top and beautiful kind of snowflake motifs and are just lovely. It's an Aran weight, come in 2 sizes, a small medium and medium large. Cross-country skiing specifically with these I think is perfect, which I think is what the girl in the picture is doing. So one more pattern here. I couldn't not feature these mittens. I wanted to feature the Celeste sweater by Petite Knit, but I felt like I try to limit how much I talk about Petite Knit patterns or larger designers because you've probably already seen them. But I did want to feature these Celeste mittens. This is a Petite Knit pattern and they're kind of a play off of her Celeste sweater, which is a colorwork circular yoke sweater. And I haven't seen people talk about this pattern before. I hadn't seen it before. It's a nice pair of mittens with a similar motif, and they'd be a little simpler than the Skandir Knits pattern, and they're a little bit more graphic as well and less pointy at the top. And so I think that this is also a really great option for a nice pair of warm mittens that have that fun color work element. Moving on to our next category, we've got headbands to keep your ears warm, keep your hair back, keep your sweat out of your eyes while you're skiing. They're very practical to have like a little headband. You don't necessarily want a whole hat because you have to wear your helmet, but a lovely headband to just keep your ears warm and again, keep hair out of your face, keep sweat from dripping in your eyes while you're skiing. So very practical piece to have a headband while you're skiing. And then they also just look really cute. And I think that they're a nice accessory so you can still have your hair up in the winter, but you're keeping your ears warm and like the top of your head, which I think is really the most important part to keep warm when you're out in the elements. So let's talk about them. The first one is the weekend headband. This is a Petite Knit pattern, so I love that. I was like, I don't want to feature a lot of Petite Knit, and then I've shown you 2 Petite Knit patterns in a row, but I also had never seen this headband pattern before. It's a play off of the weekend hat, which is released by her, and it's a DK weight 1x1 rib hat. This is a worsted weight headband, and it has 4 different sizes for youth up to a large, and again, really yarn friendly. It's 90 to 122 meters, which makes sense. It's a tiny little bit of yarn, but it looks like it's double folded over to keep you really nice and warm, and it's just 1x1 rib, and so super cozy. I like this one because it didn't feel, a lot of headbands feel very decorative, maybe. Not decorative, but they have like a nice twist element or a pretty element on them, which I do like as well. But for this aesthetic, I wanted to go with simpler headbands to make them look a little bit more practical and athletic and like they'd slip under a helmet or something like that. Well, and so that's that first one. The next one is the Snowdrop headband. This is a pattern by Along Avec Anna, and it's a free pattern, which is great. And it's a DK weight. It uses 200 meters of DK weight yarn. Originally, it's designed to hold merino and a mohair together, or like a fingering weight and a mohair together, but you could probably just get away with a DK weight. It's got a nice design, but it's also not too bulky and not too distracting to have the design. Like it's not, I don't know, overly decorative. It's just a pretty design, but otherwise pretty similar in shape to the weekend headband, where it's just a thing that goes around your head. It's not like crossing over, it's not expanding. So I like that one. And this final headband that we'll talk about is the Ruutu Solmuja headband, by Suvi Littikainen. And I know that I'm doing that wrong, and I apologize in advance. But it's a beautiful headband. I think that this one's so cool. Like it has that cross detail. So this one is definitely the most decorative one that I've talked about, where it crosses in like this. But I love the grid on it, and I wonder if you could also just do it straight if you wanted, like just seam it standard, because you make this cross by sewing it together like this. That doesn't make sense, but it's a sewing technique, and so you could very easily just sew it straight together instead if you want it to be a little bit more practical for this look. But I think the grid's really fun and would look really nice as well, you know, out in the snow, and let you have a cute little bun while you're out and about in the snow. So those are the headbands. In our final category here, which, man, I'm going quick today, which maybe is good. Let me know if you prefer a quicker, snappier format here, is chunky turtlenecks, especially with texture. And so I've got 3 patterns to talk about in this. And, you know, this is the traditional, like in the lodge after a day of skiing, and you've got your big turtleneck, you've got your cup of hot cocoa, you're sitting by a fire, and you're tired, your muscles are sore, and you're just enjoying your cocoa, or you're sitting outside, you've got your hat on still, you got the big sweater, but you're like warm enough that you don't need your whole coat. So it's just a nice vibe with just a big sweater. So let's just get into the patterns here. The first one is the Winter's Pullover. This is by Ozetta, also known as Haley Smedley. And it's just a really nice, super oversized turtleneck sweater. And so it is an Aran weight. It's meant to fit between bust circumferences of 30 and 56 inches. But it's supposed to have a lot of positive ease. It's supposed to have 16 inches of positive ease. So I also think that you could, you know, size down a little bit on this one as well, and still be really happy with that final fit to still be pretty oversized, because 16 inches of positive ease is quite a bit. So that's this first pattern. The next one is the Eclair Raglan. This is by Laura Penrose, and especially her first sample in this kind of cream color with the big chunky turtleneck and a nice cabled front, I think is lovely and really gets this vibe. I would probably omit the baubles for this aesthetic. The baubles are also really cute, but I don't know, I think that the baubles, like thinking about zipping up a ski coat or like a winter coat with baubles in the middle, I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that. And so, well, aesthetics don't actually have to be practical, and you can just choose these elements. I'm always in my head like, well, that wouldn't physically work. And so I would probably omit the baubles, but they're also really fun. And yeah, it's just got that nice cable design. I love the way a raglan fits, and just nice and cozy in your raglan, drinking your hot chocolate up in the lodge. And gosh, our final pattern of the day is the Seagrass by Hanna Masijuska. This is by Woolfolk as well, so that's the designer, or the designer company or publishing company. And it's just a really nice, again, cabled sweater with a turtleneck. Looks really comfortable, is nicely oversized, and just well designed. And so you can get this in an ebook, or you can get it on its own, and it goes between 43 inches to 67.5 inches, and an exact positive ease isn't given, but it looks like about 13 inches of positive ease. But again, I think that you could reduce that as well and still have a nice oversized fit. And so, yeah, beautiful, beautiful pattern for sitting at the lodge or sitting in your house, drinking a drink at home and watching the snow from outside, because I have not skied in years. So I will not be partaking fully in Aprés Ski, but I still want to look like I could be at a lodge and bring those vibes to my winter coziness. And so I wish that for you too. Or if you are skiing this year or snowboarding or just getting out in the mountains, I hope you enjoy that too. And I hope that these are practical things that maybe you could bring to enhance your experience. So, gosh, that was quick. But I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that these were interesting patterns to you. Let me know if you do ski or snowboard or snowshoe or whatever you may be doing to get up in the mountains. Let me know. I'd also be interested. I think that the culture around lodges and kind of this après ski is very different depending on where you ski. And so I'd love to hear if you engage in après ski in your winter activities, or if it's more of like just ski in, ski out. Like in Colorado, we change in the parking lot, like everything, you go in, you get to the ground already in your full gear. And I've heard other places there's more of this lodge culture where you're changing in the lodge and talking to people, putting on your ski boots together inside. But here it's like you're in the parking lot, put on your big fat coat, zip it all the way up, and put on your big fat snow pants and put on your ski boots and just wool socks and big hat and just definitely a puffball look, which is not always the most practical because you get a little bit too warm in the puffball. And so, but yeah, it's not as much of a hanging, lounging after. Like there's still lodges that we'll go sit in, but I don't know. I think it's different here. And so I'd really be interested to hear if you do ski or snowboard or have in the past, what après ski was like for you. And if you'd add any, types of things to this aesthetic or any patterns that you'd recommend as well. So, okay. Overall, I'm babbling at this point, but thank you so much for being here. And I will see you again next week. And until then, happy knitting. All right. Bye.